Hey guys, what's up? ShaneWolf38 here. Today I'm going to be doing something different than I usually do. I'm going to be making a complete tutorial on the operations command in Minecraft, and I'm going to be showing some practical uses that you could use it for, and some pretty cool stuff. So this video is going to be really long. I haven't seen how long it's going to be yet, but I'm predicting 20 to 25 minutes at the shortest. 15 minutes at the shortest, probably about 20-25 minutes. Now, this is for people who really want to know how to use operations commands, or the operation command. So yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so first I'm going to start out by doing scoreboard players operation. Now we have a bunch of weird stuff here. We have target name, target objective, operation, selector, objective. What exactly does this mean? Well, let me do scoreboard objective set display sidebar test, which is just a little dummy objective I have. Now, if I do scoreboard players operation, and then let's say I do ShaneWolf38, my name, test, let's do an operation like that, is equal to test. What's this gonna do? Okay, what this means is that basically, the person who is affected is right here. This is the person that's going to be affected. And this is the scoreboard, or the objective that is going to be affected. This is going to be the objective affected. It's going to be this player's score for this... Alright, it's going to be this player's score for this objective. So, basically, what this does is it adds test score of test. So test is a dummy player. It's just a fake player. You can just do this by setting test5 or test whatever. It's just a fake name. What it's going to do is it's going to add test score of test. As you can see on the sidebar, test score is 5. So it's going to add test score of test to my score of test. So if I do this right now, it's going to basically make my score 5 since I currently have nothing. So boom, there I'm on the scoreboard again. If I do it again, it's going to make my score 10 because my test score, 5, plus test score, which is 5, equals 10. So as you can see, I am now at 10. And the test score, which is right here, is not affected at all. It's only the player that is right here. This is true of all operations in Minecraft except for the last weird one, which we're going to get into kind of at the end of this little explanation. Okay, let's get on to the next one. What does this mean? Oh, whoops, I did not mean to do that at all. What does this one mean? This is just going to subtract test score from my score of test. So if I have 10, it's going to subtract 5, which is test score, and now I have 5. Okay, that's very simple. What's the next one? Multiply. What this does is it multiplies my score by test score. So since we both have 5, this should equal 25. There we go. What happens if I do it again? Well, 25 times 5 is 125. So my test score times test score is equal to 125. So it's going to set my test score to 125. There we go. Pretty simple. What's the next one? This one is divide. So it's going to divide my test score by test score. So 125 divided by 5 is going to be equal to 25. So it should set my score to 25 because I am the player that's being affected. There we go. My score is now 25. That's very simple. Now, this next one is kind of complicated. It's a percent sign and then equal. What does this mean? Well, this is used in programming, and what it basically does is it gets the remainder of the division problem. So what exactly that does is, let's say I had 10 divided by 3. Let's say my score was 10 and test score was 3. It would equal 1. Why? 10 goes into 3. Yeah, 3 goes into 10 3 times, and it has a remainder of 1. It doesn't go in equally, so it's going to have basically have a remainder, and it's going to give you that remainder. Let's say I had 49 divided by I don't know, 10. It's going to equal 1 again because, it's going to equal 9 because 49, 10 goes into 49 4 full times, and then it has a remainder of 9. It has 9 more. So yeah, it's going to be equal to 9 in that situation because that is what the remainder is. So let's do this. Right now I should get 0 if I run this operation because my test score, 25, divided by test score is equal to 5. It's a whole number. So it's going to find the remainder. There is no remainder in that, so it's going to equal 0. So when I do this, you can see that my test score now equals 0. Let's set my test score to 11 because when I do this, what I'm hoping is that I get 1 because 11 divided by 5, 5 goes into 11 twice and then it has a remainder of 1. So if I do this, I should get 1. Yep, there we go. Now I have a score of 1. Let's go on to the next one. The one after that is extremely simple. It's just equal. This basically means that my test score is going to be equal to test score. So whatever my score is, it's going to be changed to test score. So if I do this, I should have 5. Boom, there we go. Now I have 5. Very simple. The one after that is a little bit weirder. This one just means that if my score is less than test score, it's going to set my score of test to test score. So let's say I had a test score of 3 and test had a score of 5. This would set my score of test to 5 because my score is less than test score. 3 is less than 5. So it's going to set that 3 to 5. What if I had 8 and test had 3? This wouldn't do anything because 8 is greater than 3, so it's going to remain the same. Let's test this out. Let's set my test score to 3. When I do this, whoops, I didn't save that objective. Okay, when I do this, I should get a score of 5. Okay, I did not get a score of 5. Oh, wow, I was just explaining that entire thing wrong. Okay. Let me go back. This one right here means everything I was just saying. This basically means that or wait, hold up. No, wait, this was right. If my test score is less. Okay, that's really weird. Hold up. Oh. Okay. Alright. So, wow. Yeah, I really did mess that one up. Okay. So, basically, what this means right here is that my score of test has to be greater. What this was saying back here was that my score was supposed to be less than test score. So disregard everything I just said about this. What this is going to do is if my score is greater than test score, it's going to set my score to test score. So if my score is 8 and test score is 3, it's going to set my test score to 3 because 8 is greater than 3. But if I have less, like 3, and test has 8, it's not going to do anything because my score is already less. So if I do this and set my test score to 3, and now I run this, it's not going to do anything. But if I set my test score to 8, which is greater than 5, it's going to set my score to 5. And this does the exact opposite if I flip it. Basically means if my score is less than test, it's going to set it to test. So if I have a score of 2, and I do this, it should set it to 5 because 2 is less than 5. But if I have a score of 8, it shouldn't do anything because 7, I meant 8, but I set it to 7, because 7 is greater than 5, which is test score, so it's not going to do anything. And if it's the exact same as test score, it's not going to do anything. And now this last one is the kind of weird one I was talking about, which is actually going to affect both objectives. What this does is it flips our scores. So if my score was 5 and test score was 3, it would make my test score 3 and test score 5. So let's try this out. If I set my test score to 2 and I run this, what this is going to do is it's going to flip our scores. So test is going to get a score of 5 and I'm going to get a score of, test is going to get a score of 2 and I'm going to get a score of 5. So yep, there we go. Now we've flipped. I have a score of 5, test has a score of 2. We do it again, we flip again. Test has a score of 5 and I have a score of 2. That's about it for the operations. Now let's get into some practical uses and things you should learn about them. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my sidebar to carry. Now let's set my score of score to, whoops, let me see all that. Let's set my score of score to 10. And what happens when I click this? It basically makes my carry 10. And if I do 15 of score, it's going to make my carry 15. What a carry is it carries over the objective into another objective. So let's say I had a score of, let's make up an objective. Let's make up the objective LOL. If I had a score of LOL 5 and I pressed carry, carry's job, whatever that objective would be named, is the carry objective would pull that score out and make it equal to the same score. It wouldn't flip them, but it would just take that score and make it its own. So if I had an LOL score of 5 and carry had a score of anything, it would make carry 5 and LOL would remain at 5. This is just so you can then operate on carry without LOL being affected. This is done extremely simply, or very simply, that's kind of odd. It executes at everyone who has a start carry score of minimum 1, which is what this does. It sets my start carry score to 1. And then it's going to execute at A, and it's going to run an operation command and set, since this is executing at everybody, everyone's running this command, and it's going to set their carry score to their score. So everyone runs this command when I do this. So everyone's score of score is going to be equal to everyone's score of carry. So it's very simple, and then this one is just going to reset anyone's start carry score if they have a start carry score of minimum 1. Now let me just set this place sidebar win. Okay, here we have a win detector. This basically tells us who won. Right now, let me just clear that. Red has a score of 0, right? And blue has a score of 5. So who should win? Blue. If I press this, blue won. As you can see, red actually gets changed to -5. Right now, you can change that, but for simplicity, I just didn't. So let's set red to 10 and blue to 10. This should be a tie, right? So, yep, it's a tie. Now, what happens if red is 15? 15 is greater than 10, right? So red has 15, blue has 10. If I press this, it should say red won. Yep, red won. If I press it now, blue has a score of 10 and red has a score of 5. Blue should win. So there we go. Blue won. You may have already seen how I did this. So let's just clear my sidebar and let's go over to the win detector section. Okay, so this executes at everyone who has a win score of 1. So what this does right over here is it sets my win score to 1. So when I do this, what's going to happen is it's going to execute at me, and then it's going to do an operations command at the red fake player, the fake player red. It's going to do it's basically going to subtract blue's win score from red win score. So if red has a score of win 10 and blue has a score of win 3, it's just going to subtract red score, or it's going to subtract blue score from red score. So like if red has 10 and blue has 3, red is going to be then set to 7 because 10 minus 3 is equal to 7. Alright? And the next thing it does is it runs an operation at everybody who has a score of win, and it's going to make their win score equal to red win score. So if red has a score of 7 now, it's going to make my win score 7. So win is actually going to be a carry objective in this case, because you can't execute at fake players. So I have to make it so I can now execute at myself with my win score. So it's going to tell, or it's going to execute at everybody who has a win score of minimum 1, and tell raw, which is just basically telling everybody that red won. So if win has a minimum score of 1, what does that mean? If red had 10 and blue had 3, red, which has 10, minus 3, which is blue's score, is equal to 7, right? And then it sets my score to 7. So if I have a minimum of 7, so that's more than 1, I mean that's more than 0, it's going to say red won, because if red had 10, blue had 3, if red score is greater than 0 when blue is subtracted from red, that means red had to have won. I hope you got that. And this is going to execute everybody who had a win score of 0 and tell everybody that it's a tie. So what this means is if red had 10 and blue had 10, 10 minus 10 is equal to 0, right? It's a tie. So then it executes at me, who now has red score, which is 0, and it's going to just say that it's a tie. It's then going to execute at everyone who has a score of win that's less than 1, which means that when blue was subtracted from red, it went into the negatives, which means blue was bigger than red. It's going to tell everybody that blue won, and it's just going to reset everybody's win score. Very simple. Okay, let's get on to the next one. Easy calculation. Scoreboard objectives, set display, sidebar, X. Okay, let me just scoreboard players set X, X, let's just do 3. An easy calculation. What this is going to do is it's going to it's going to square X. So X is 3, right? So squaring it should make X 9. Boom, X is 9. If I square X now, which is 9, it should equal 81, right? 9 times 9 is 81. There we go. 81 times 81 is some big number. Apparently that's what equals 6,561. Very simple. Let's get on to a semi-advanced calculation. This calculation that we're going to be doing is this. It's going to be x squared divided by x plus 5. Okay, let's see what we have here. X squared, so let's say a 3 right now. 3 squared is equal to 9, right? And then that's going to be divided by 3 plus 5. So it's going to be 9 divided by 8. So we should get 1. And it's going to have a remainder of 1. But right now it's not going to tell us the remainder. We should get 1 though. If I click this, x is now 1. Which x is basically our answer after we do this. Let's set it to 200. Okay, 200 squared is 40,000. 200 plus 5 is basically 205. So it's going to do 40,000 divided by 205. I believe that's like 195. You can do it on the calculator. And it has a remainder of 25. So if we click this, x should now equal 195. Sorry, I don't know if I said that. But yeah, it should equal 195. And then it have a remainder of 25. There we go. X is equal to 195. Let's set it back to 200 and do an advanced calculation. The advanced calculation is going to give us a remainder now. So if I click this, you now can see that the x is 195 and the remainder is 25. So basically, if you go on a calculator and you do 40,000 and then you subtract 25 from that, and then divide that by 195, not 195, you divide that by 205, you are going to get the exact answer of 195 with no decimal places. So that's pretty cool. If I set this to, I don't know, 235, I'm going to get a new answer. to 30 apparently, with the remainder of 25. Let's say I do it to 623. I now have x is 618, and if I do an advanced calculation for that, sorry, oh wow, I keep on pressing it. X is going to equal to 608. Let's say I do 235. Now I click it, 230. And it looks like my remainder is having a little bit of a problem here, but don't worry. We can fix that when we go and check it out. Alright, let's go and see how I did this. The easy calculation is simple. I execute anyone who has a calc score of minimum 1. Now, if you go behind this blue one right here, you can see it just sets my calc score to 1. And now it's going to do an operation and do x's score of x times x's score of x. So it's basically just going to multiply x by x, which is going to equal this what it would equal squared, and then this just resets everyone's calc score who has a calc of minimum 1. The semi-advanced calculation is going to do an operation at everyone who has a semi-advanced calc score of 1, and I'm just setting their semi-advanced calc score to 1 when I do when I press the button, and it's going to make their x score equal to x x's x. So I'm actually going to be the carry objective in this case. Then what it's going to do is it's going to execute at anyone who has a semi-advanced calc score and run an operation of x's x score times x's x score. So it's just going to square it. So now x should be equal to its square root. And then what it's going to do is it's going to do an operation and do anyone who has a semi-advanced calc score of minimum 1, so my score basically, of x. So it's going to do my x score plus 5 score of x. As you can see, 5 is a fake player who has an x score of 5. So it's just going to add 5, which is the bottom part, x plus 5. Then what it's going to do is it's going to run an operation and do x's x score divided by my semi-advanced calc score's x. So it's just going to be divided by my x score. So if you remember, my x score is x plus 5. And then x's x score is now x squared, which is, let's say I had 9, or I mean, let's say I had 3. 3 squared is 9. X is going to be equal to 9, and my score is going to be equal to 8, because 3 plus 5 equals 8. So it's going to basically divide 9 by 8. Then it's just going to reset anyone who has a semi-advanced calc score of minimum 1. It's going to reset their x. And then reset anyone who has a semi-advanced calc score of minimum 1. It's going to reset their semi-advanced calc. So that's very simple, sort of. Now, what do we do when we do the advanced? We do the exact same thing we did with the semi-advanced calc, except we're going to say an advanced calc score of minimum 1, which is just going to start this. And it's going to do my x equals to x's x, which is the same carry. And then it's just going to do the exact same thing and multiply x times x. It's going to do the exact same thing and use my x and add 5 to it. It's going to do the something different. What it's going to do is it's going to execute at myself, and it's going to do an operation and have remainder of x equal to x's x. So it's going to have remainder's score of x equal to x's score of x. So x's score of x is now x squared. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to do an operation and have remainders run remainders score of x. It's going to run basically the this operation right here, which gives it the remainder of my score of x. And my score of x is going to be equal to x plus 5, which is what we did right here, where I carried, right here, sorry, where I carried x into my x score, and then I added 5 to my x score. So this should basically give us the remainder of the calculation. And then this is just going to do the same thing and divide x's score of x by my x score, and then reset everyone who has an advanced calc score minimum 1. It's going to reset their x and then reset their advanced calc score. Very, very cool. Okay, let's get rid of this. I don't know why the remainder is not working. Should be working. Let me set my, let's set x to 10. and then do this. Okay, yeah, the remainder actually does work. I don't know why when I set it to a big number. Wow, it actually seems that... Wow, that's actually really interesting for mathematics. It appears that whenever my score is in the 200s or above, the remainder always equals 25. I don't know if that's actually a glitch or not. I'm actually really curious to do that on a calculator. I'm actually going to do that while we're doing this to just see if that's actually correct, because that's actually pretty interesting. So